In November of 2024, Dazi Lewis called the Greenville Sheriff's Office because she needed something. And that something including a chilling foreshadowing of what would happen if the police showed up. Well, guess what? The police showed up, and we're going to bring you the surprise ending and how it relates to two other famous cases we've previously brought to you. All that and what it means for your weekend on the Comm Center.
Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breasy. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who are called by a small town sheriff to investigate the discovery of a literal comfort zone, ironically located in Afghanistan. I am John. I'm an actual 911 dispatcher. I've been doing that about 10 years. Our host is Drew Breasy. He was a cop for almost 29 years. He was a detective, patrol sergeant, a whole bunch of things, interrogator, just did all the really fun cop stuff. Drew, I'm excited about this case, so much so that I want to dive right into the actual 911 audio if you're ready.
Go for it.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
I'm at Kmart Plaza, right across the street from the hospital.
Do you know the address there?
No, I don't.
Do you know what other road you're nearby or a business you're at?
Mills Avenue.
Okay. Do you need police, fire, or EMS?
Please.
Are you at the Sphinx?
No, I'm at the Kmart, the food line.
Okay, give me 1 second to pull up food line. Okay, and what's going on out there? Ma'am?
I'm definitely planning on doing something stupid.
Calls like this, the first thing we think when someone calls in and says, I'm thinking of doing something stupid, suicidal ideation. It's something that comes to 911 all the time. Although 988 is the national suicide hotline, people are still calling us for those crisis moments when they're thinking of doing something emergent right away. They're going to harm themselves right now. Drew, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't discourage anybody, and I know you're not, but I wouldn't discourage anybody from calling 911 if you have the ideation. Just call someone, 988-911. But you're definitely right. 988 is more appropriate because they can get you help. But obviously, if it's an acute situation, I mean, she's calling 911. But people say things like that all the time, even to people who are wanting to carry that out. They say, "Hey, you're not thinking of doing anything stupid, are you?" Right. And to the person, it's just kind of like, yeah, like, why are you beating around the bush? Like I'm going to tell you now. I mean, you don't even have the balls to say the word. I mean,
yeah.
May or may not be speaking from experience on that one.
That is something that we teach 911 dispatchers, is that you're never going to give someone the idea to end their own life. They're either thinking about it or they're not. And so we encourage people to be rather direct about it.
Kind of hard to offend somebody that's getting ready to end their life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. What'd you say?
I said I'm definitely planning on doing something stupid.
Okay, what do you mean?
There's a few ideas on my mind, but I don't know. I could probably go into the Sphinx and talk with the cashiers.
John, what's your thought on her coherence? Like she seems distraught, but she seems very with it. So is this a matter of like she's infinitely sad, or is this a matter of perhaps she's having some kind of psychotic break or something?
That's one of the biggest disconnects on this call. As you'll listen and you'll hear this more and more, it actually only gets worse from here. But there's a disconnect between, what a psychologist would refer to as her affect or her mood or her emotions. There's a disconnect between what she claims to be feeling or what she seems to be saying and the way that she's acting. She's acting very confident. She seems very coherent. She doesn't seem tearful or sad. But those things aren't necessarily indicative of, behavior which indicates someone's going to take their own lives. People can be in different states of minds. People who have thought about it for a long time can actually be elated because they see that relief for the pain that they're going through is right around the corner. They can be in a fantastic mood. Others are more resigned, saying, this is where you'll be able to find my body. And some people are distraught and tearful. So those people come to us in all different ways, Drew.
And you as the 911 operator, how are you going to emote that to the person that needs to respond face to face?
Well, it's difficult because now I've got to try to deduce exactly where this person's at and try to find a way to convey emotions to a police officer through a computer or a radio.
Right.
The best thing I could do is let them know that they're going to be in contact with someone who's in some kind of crisis. I like to kind of diagnose what that is, but police officers should be ready when they enter a situation like this for anything they might encounter. We've talked about a couple cases lately. I'm remembering Charles Sharp in New Jersey with Salvatore Oldratti, where he was calling about burglars and ended up being something completely different. So
Right.
police officers, whatever you're being told from dispatch is helpful, but be ready for anything.
Yeah, ask questions. The dispatcher usually has a good read on what's going on, or the 911 operator anyway.
We'll get back to it.
What?
Sphinx.
So you're heading to Sphinx now?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you say you were planning on doing?
I don't really want to say.
This is very suspicious. She's saying, I don't want to say what I'm doing. And earlier too, when she said I was planning on doing something stupid, you heard the 911 dispatcher say, "I'm sorry, I'm having a difficult time hearing you." The way the dispatcher phrased that was as though it was a technical problem, when what she really meant was, "I'm having a difficult time understanding you." When they say something like that, and it's difficult to understand what their motivation is. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll tell someone, I couldn't hear you. The phone's breaking up. Could you repeat yourself? Because that'll give me a second chance to hear what they're about, what they're doing, what they're planning, and maybe even emotion that's in their voice. Drew?
We've covered this before because I've experienced as a 911 operator, as a cop, as somebody interrogating people, and I know that you've experienced it too. But there's also that moment of surreal that you're hearing something and you're like, man, did I just hear that? And you want to clarify it. So I mean, that could account for some of that too. But like sometimes you hear crazy stuff and you're just like, man, did she really just say that? Did she say what I think she said? And you got to clarify it.
Yeah, sometimes we just need that replay button. So we tell people like,
Yeah.
"Oh, could you repeat yourself? Because I didn't hear you."
Okay, I need to know what's going on, though. I'm trying to help you.
I don't really want to tell, but police should definitely be around the area.
Okay, what's your clothing description?
This is troubling for sure. She says, I don't want to tell you what I'm doing. And now she's walking into contact in the gas station. What's the first thing you think of in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., the gas station with someone? You're thinking, possibly a robbery, some sort of weapons violation, some sort of use of force. Gas stations are dangerous places in the middle of the night. And the way that she's walking over there, there's almost sort of an implied kind of threat, like I'm walking over to the gas station now. This dispatcher, of course, wants to put somebody in her path before she can get in there and potentially endanger one or two other people, whoever might be in the gas station. So the dispatcher is getting more anxious. The person who's calling is saying police should definitely be there. We're kind of happy to oblige. We're also anxious to oblige, because why is it that you're asking for police, but you won't say what it is? This just has all the red flags on it, Drew.
I'm pretty sure it's safe to imply that she's not there to put a smile on the clerk's face, or you know what I mean, or she's not going to hug a cop. She's calling 911 to say, I'm about to do something pretty bad. And when people tell you that, you should believe them.
You should believe them. She's not buying those officers donuts. We can believe that.
All black and white pants and a gray jacket.
Gray jacket, black and white pants.
Yeah.
Do you have any weapons?
I do. I have a knife.
Okay, that's huge. She's just saying that she has a knife, that she's going to she wants police officers there, and she's armed. Drew, what does it mean to you if I told you that this person is asking for police officers, she's armed, and she's willing to cooperate insofar that she'll give us a description of her person? She's making it easy. She's telling us exactly where she is. She's walking towards the Sphinx gas station. Here's what she looks like. She has a knife. What kind of encounter is she expecting versus what kind of encounter are we hoping for?
This seems like an SBC, that S word by cop. It's another red flag when they're like, finally, you asked me the question I wanted you to ask me, and they give you the answer that you needed to hear. Like, so do you have any weapons on you? Well, as a matter of fact, I have a knife. So tell your little police officers that. You know what I mean? Like, this is all very, very intentional. And when people are willing to end their lives by means of look, I was going through another episode that we did in the past. that I'm getting ready to edit and re-release. And he just kept saying over and over, look, just get the cops here and take care of this for me because I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
And it's all truth, and it's all just, there's nothing to hide at this point. So she said the magic, she asked the magic question, and the 911 operator got the magic answer. Yep, I have a knife. So now she's going to put in the CAD notes, subject's arm. She has a knife. She's getting ready to walk into a convenience store, and that's going to raise everybody's level probably, to 9 or 10.
Going to put it the CAD, but also a good dispatcher is going to put it on the radio for everyone to hear, because the people who are driving there right now are not looking at their computers. Will always want to make sure that any kind of alert or change that has to do with officer safety goes out over the air.
Are you black, white, or Hispanic?
I'm black.
Is anybody under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
No.
Drew, do you think she told the truth on that one?
It gets back to her coherence. I don't think she's not necessarily slurring her words. I still think this leans towards psychotic episode, but I don't know. She could be.
It's difficult these days because anymore people can be under the influence of a lot of different things. And we have drug recognition expert police officers who will do in-person interviews and examinations of people and their behaviors to determine if they're under the influence of methamphetamines. It's almost impossible to determine that through the phone. What we normally look for is the slurred language and incoherence of alcohol. But so far, we haven't heard any of that. We have no reason to believe that she's not telling the truth. But on the other hand, if she's not under the influence of drugs or alcohol, why would she be doing this in the first place? Why would she be calling? Well, it's only for that psychosis reason that you mentioned.
And then where are you at right now?
I'm at the Kmart, the empty Kmart, the closed one. That's the 3 Lion.
Okay. What's going on? Why do you feel this way?
I don't know. There's always times where something is right.
Do you feel like suicidal?
I feel like anything is possible at this point.
Are you thinking about killing yourself?
No.
So we've addressed it.
Hold on.
We've addressed it directly.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? The dispatcher was very confused by her behavior, saying, how is it that you're feeling? What's going on with you? She asks her twice, are you thinking about ending your own life? And she says, she kind of considers it. She goes, no, I mean, anything's possible, but no. So in some ways, she's kind of giving us answers that just really confuse or muddy the water, because if she had said yes, we would have gotten at least to the answer of what the question is. Like, how does this person feel? Well, we're dealing with a person who wants to end their own life. But she's not saying that so far. And something that I've learned on the show, and I would like you to tell me if maybe I'm out of turn, but she says anything's possible at this point. You mentioned before that when people are under the influence of methamphetamine, they get sort of an invincible feeling. Mm-hmm. This was the reason why Germans were World War II were giving their soldiers amphetamine, was to help them not only have that vitality that can only come with vitamin M, but that feeling of invincibility when it comes to defeating the Allied powers. Do you think when she says, I feel like anything could happen, that might be an expression of feeling invulnerable or invincible?
Yeah, it could be. That vitamin M also gives severe paranoia and delusions and stuff. So that could be very well, because you're going to come across as coherent in those situations. We've just run into 2 or 3 of those on different calls, on different cases that we've done, where the person is, high on math, and all of a sudden, they're just talking, having a normal conversation, but it's just not there. It's not like in this universe. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think you bring a great point here. This could be an indicator that maybe she's, intoxicated in that sense, but also like it's a mystery. I'm glad the operator asked the question she asked, because it's still a mystery to me. Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you feeling this way? What can we help you with? What can we fix?
Yeah.
Exactly. And she's got one thing on her mind, but I don't think anybody's doing the math yet,
Mm-hmm. if I had to type this call, like if I had to give it a call type, if it was, person in need or suspicious person or suspicious vehicle, I would still be very, very, very not sure what call type this is, because she hasn't stated a chief complaint other than she needs the police there, and she's saying no to any kind of ideation about ending her own life. So I wouldn't technically classify it as that, but I'd probably list it as a psychiatric episode, so the police were aware that that was at least the flavor of the subtext of what was going on.
Right.
Would you hurt my deputies out there?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
That answers that.
That's shocking. She says and props to the dispatcher, because she asks now the most important question. The dispatchers run to the end of her protocol. She goes, I can't think of anything else, but I need to know what this is. Would you hurt my deputies out there? Who's at risk besides you? Is it going to be my cops? And this caller has been forthright and honest so far. And so she just admits, yes, I'm going to hurt the police officers you're sending to me. So in some sense, you feel terrible, because this 911 caller has said, I have a problem and you want to help. But she goes, I need police officers. And we're like, okay, but why? And she goes, I don't want to say. And then we come to the end of ourselves and saying, are you going to hurt the cops? And she says, yes. Well, if you want to go by strictly rational thinking, the thing to do would be to not send those police officers there. Like, I'm not going to send them to a situation where they're going to be, where I've been just told that there's an ambush in progress. But the thing is that Spink's gas station and just anyone else in the public, and our duty to protect the public, means we now have to put police officers' lives in danger and send them into a situation that no one wants to go in, that we're going to go be confronting someone who says, I'm armed with a knife and I will hurt police officers. And if she'll hurt police officers, she'll hurt herself, she'll hurt anyone else. So we have to intervene. Drew, unless you have more thoughts, we'll go to the body cam footage, which is going to be very instructive.
I do have a thought. This is the dragon's lair that I always talk about. Like, we could take this path or we could take this path. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I've held exit interviews with dispatchers, 911 operators who were leaving the agency. It's a pretty common thing in the business. But one of their most common fears that's never talked about is that they are marching somebody to their death. They are marching an officer to their death. So can you put us in the mind of you taking this 911 call and your feeling of, shit, I got to get the word to them that something bad's about to happen?
It's difficult because sometimes there's things which you're prohibited from putting it over the radio. An example of that would be a hunch, a bad feeling you have. You can't get on the air and just say, hey, Steve, I have a really bad feeling about this. So, we have 10 codes for use caution and other things. And those things help to alert police officers. But, without going through story time again, we had something similar to this where we had someone who was begging for an encounter with the police. They weren't doing it as directly as this, saying police should be in the area, but they seemed to be setting up multiple situations in a night where they wanted to arrange this. And at one point, I just realized the number of calls that we got and the weird different natures of each of them in the different places. I realized that this person's driving around and waiting for a police officer. And because the situation was not emergent, we didn't have this person walking towards a gas station. I'm like, let's take a moment and let's analyze what's going on. Let's figure out what's going on. We're going to type everything in there because we have the time, but we're also going to, instead of giving this out over the air, like, hey, a subject asking for contact with a police officer, armed with a knife, we call them and we give them everything that we know is facts, but everything else that we think is strange, just so that they will know that going into this situation, it truly is, there's more than we can really relate to them directly over the radio. And that's only if we have time. This lady's walking up to a gas station and we have no idea what's happening in there. So sometimes you'll hear looser language on radios, particularly with smaller agencies, but you might hear some more plain language about being careful. But it's very, very stressful to address the emotional side of it because cops sign up for this, but we don't really sign up to put them in danger. Strangely, we don't like that feeling.
Right.
It feels more. We feel responsible for it, even though
Right.
we're not.
That's the word that's the magic word, responsibility. Like you feel responsible, and there's nothing you do. This is the feeling of helplessness of not being able to reach through the phone and help somebody. And this is not being able to reach through a radio and help somebody. We're going to get to the body cam here. If you would remind me before the end of the show of why we don't broadcast hunches.
I will try to do my best to remind you that. Before we get into the body cam, I want to talk about something that the common person may or may not be aware of, but the news frequently will make hay out of this. We talk about how we're dealing with a female. She's armed with a knife. Now we've got multiple male police officers who are responding, but they're sidearmed. And the news might try to paint this as this is not a fair fight, or the use of firearms responding to a subject armed with a knife is not reasonable or it's not fair. We've mentioned the 21-foot rule before, but let's dispel some myths about what it means for someone to be attacked with a knife, and I guess I'll let you do that.
Well, 21-foot rule, for those who don't know, is that your reaction time, it's court tested that your reaction time of getting your gun out of your holster and effectively fighting against the person advancing towards you with the knife or a sharp object, an edged weapon, is 21 feet. So we have this bubble sort of that we surround ourselves within 21 feet. We don't want to advance to the 21-foot mark or the 20-foot mark just to make something happen. That's not necessarily a good practice either. But so there's that. There's a video that I literally just saw before we came on, where there's an emotionally disturbed person stabbing a New York City police officer, and another police officer he stabs him in the back just below the vest, and another officer takes over and has to use deadly force, and it backs the guy into an elevator, and he continues to fire. And it's comparing and contrasting what happened in that case with what happened in Austin, because the officers in Austin ended up being indicted because the person had nowhere to go, because they end up being trapped in the elevator and the officer shot him. So it's just a matter of you're a prosecutor, if they have common sense or if they don't, or if they have the ability to understand that we don't deserve to be stabbed, and this isn't retaliatory. This is stopping an active threat. So there's that. So I don't know how it relates to this story just yet. I'll be able to tell you more once I see it, but I can tell you that bringing a knife to a gunfight is, like, so they say, a bad idea, but it's never us doing that.
Right.
Like, it's never the cops doing that. We're always, yes, we are always in the gunfight, but that's because people have guns and people have knives.
It's very easy. If you doubt our word on that, you can go to YouTube. You can look at just type in on police activity, officer stab. There's many videos of police officers who now, because of modern politics, training, procedure, and other issues, are not responding appropriately to people with knives, and they're delaying firing.
Yeah.
And those people with knives are assailing them with knives. They're getting stabbed and slashed and cut. And it's because they're not responding fast enough. So if you think a police officer using a firearm on someone with a knife is inappropriate, you've just never been in that situation, and you haven't seen the cases, and you haven't seen the videos, and you're not looking at the obvious cases that we already have that show that police officers are badly injured by knives. And we're going to try to avoid that. But it also relates to this case very strongly.
What's going on this evening? Or this morning?
We're trying 38, 1051 at station.
What's going on? Say what? What can the sheriff's office help you with, ma'am? Do you need EMS for anything? Okay.
I'm calling. Daisy. Okay. What's going on?
So here we have police officers engaged in an unknown situation. They know she's armed with a knife, thank goodness, because look at the distance that they have physically between themselves and her. And this is because of that 21-foot rule. They know that if she suddenly brandishes the weapon and charges at them, they need to have room to respond to that threat. The problem is that now it's also a barrier to effective communication. If you want to have a conversation with someone, every day you do it by walking up to that person instead of shouting from them across some distance with the engine of your cruiser roaring and all this. You want to be able to hear someone. You want to be able to have an intimate conversation, particularly if you're going to be talking about emotional distress and particularly with sensitive subjects. So this is a barrier to effective communication, a physical one that they've got to overcome, and it's going to make negotiating with Dazi very difficult. Drew, any thoughts?
Yeah, let's paint the picture of what 21 feet is. Also, that's 7 yards, so it's not even a first down. Like it's it's 7 yards. Like it's 7 like giant mother may I giant steps. So it's not very far. They're definitely not within 21 feet, and there is probably a good reason they kind of leapfrog there. Like, one officer, when you're alone, you definitely want to have a good distance, yelling distance. And then when the second officer shows up, well, they can be within a comfortable talking distance because now there's two of you there. You could go into what we would call contact cover, which means one officer is doing the contacting, the talking, and the other's doing a cover, which is like has the gun ready, has the taser out, whatever the case may be. But we still don't know what it is that she wants. Like we covered an episode not more than 3 or 4 weeks ago where a guy confessed to killing his entire family to 2 passing officers. Like you have no idea what this person wants. The only information you have is that something bad's about to happen and that she's armed with a knife. That's all you know. And you're getting there and she's not giving you the indication that she's wanting to hurt you or anything. She's just kind of talking to you. So it's a hard situation to read.
I too appreciated the tactics. For those of you just listening, what happened is the first police officer rolls up on scene. He's a far distance away from Dazi, our subject. And as he makes initial voice contact with her and says, "Hey, we're the sheriff's office and we're here to help. What do you need?" Another officer rolls up between the first officer and Dazi, and all of a sudden he becomes kind of the contact officer. And the officer whose point of view we're watching, like Drew said, he'll be the cover officer, someone who can use force to help cover that reactionary gap. Anything else, Drew?
Yeah, and just one more quick thing. Another reason for contact cover is so that you don't get conflicting commands. You know that you have somebody here that's armed, and if it turns out to be a use of force situation, it's all going to come into scrutiny. Like, what was the person listening to? Who were they listening to, and what commands were they hearing? And if you're both shouting stuff at her, it's not going to bode well for the jury. They're going to be like, well, she was confused. She didn't know what to do. That's what happened in the Daniel Shaver case. It became, although that was more egregious, I mean, it became a deadly game of Simon Says, basically. But, when you've got one person doing the yelling or you doing the talking or whatever, that tends to at least get everybody else focused on the interaction.
Excellent points on this, and I just wanted to commend Greenville because their tactics show that they're accustomed to strange encounters like this and very professional and very strong tactics.
Miss Dazi, I'm David. Did you call 911?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
One frequent thing that people who are negotiating with people in crisis will do is identify themselves by their name. It's obvious that there is the sheriff's office, so you want to let the subject know your authority, your position of authority, and why you're there, but to humanize yourself as much as possible. So that's why he says, "I'm David" instead of "officer so and so." Drew?
Yep, good.
What did you call 911 for? Do you need a place to stay tonight? Do you need a ride somewhere? What can we do to help you? That's what we're here for. Okay. Well, so far you haven't given us a reason for you to need to go either of those places. So you called 911, I'm assuming because you need something. What can we help you with? Or if you need a ride somewhere, it's cold outside. If you need to get home or to a friend's house, we can help you with that too.
Stay around here? Stay on, I see Dempsey? Where at on Dempsey?
Charlie 28.
Right at the top of the hill. I ain't been down Dempsey in so long, I don't even remember where the hill is, to be honest with you.
No.
Yeah, I know where the street is. It's right across from the Family Dollar, right? Is that what that is? Family Dollar, Dollar and General, something like that. Yeah.
A lot of ambient noise creating confusion, but that's the helicopter. I'm 99% sure that that's their helicopter keeping an eye on things.
So everybody's.
What's your plan this morning? Can I ask you to get a bike from the sheriff's office?
Stay on Dempsey by yourself? Who you stay with? You're on your brother? How old's your brother? He's 26.
Yeah.
So that's their only sibling?
Huh?
That's your only sibling?
No, I have 6 others.
Goodness gracious.
I know.
Where are you at in that mix?
I'm the second oldest.
You're the second oldest. Okay. I got you. How's it feel being the oldest?
It's pretty cool.
It's something? Yeah. Usually when you bully your younger siblings, you give them a hard time? Yeah, that's usually how it goes. You got the better end of the stick there, I'd say.
So, Daisy, I guess you told one of the people at our dispatch that. Stop it! Drop it! Drop it! Drop the knife. Daisy, drop the knife. I don't want to shoot you. You don't want.
All right, for those listening, in a moment, it just turned from friendly conversation to Daisy making this decision to advance towards them with this knife. And one officer deployed his taser, the other pulled his taser. I don't think he's deployed it yet. Or maybe he's the one that deployed his taser. What do you think, John?
I'm not sure which of them did, but it was amazing from a negotiation point of view, because most negotiations are like this. You're trying to get to know anything about that person, some background information. She's got a big family. She lives with her brother, who's 26. He's older than her. She's the second oldest. She's got 6 other siblings. They're talking about how, she lives over on this street and it's by the Family Dollar. And this officer is as relaxed as he could possibly be. We're in a de facto standoff. We have police officers surrounding a female armed with a knife. And he's trying to take the stress and the tension out of this situation by being a human being and being a kind person as much as possible. But what's going on with Daisy? They're having this conversation that's very relatable, and he's being very kind. And all of a sudden she takes out the knife and starts charging to where they deploy tasers. It's very frustrating for someone who's a negotiator, and you think that you're talking to someone, that you're making some headway of bonding with them and getting to the point where you can influence their decision making to make a better decision. And even though they've cooperated with you and engaged with you and talked with you, there's still something so wrong that they see you as someone they want to kill. It's shocking. Drew.
Yeah, I'm still personally intrigued because I don't know the ending of this, but this tells me one of two things. One, the neurons aren't firing up in her head, and she's like, something went haywire and she's like, okay, it's time. Or two, the neurons are firing up in her head and she's like, I got to get this over with because these guys are so nice. I don't want to belabor the point anymore. I'm not going to hurt them, but I'm going to make it look like I'm getting ready to hurt them so they kill me. That's the way I'm reading this.
It's tremendously sad because this bonding works 2 ways, right? They're trying to get Daisy to see them as human beings, someone that will help her, but they're getting to know her too. They're seeing her as a person, and it makes it all the more tragic as you contemplate talking to someone about having 6 siblings and where they live with their brother, and then this entire time you're having to keep your voice steady and even, calm and friendly, but you're worried, do I have to shoot this person?
So sincerity always bleeds through, John, and I can tell you from being in this position that it's genuine. Like they're having a genuine conversation because they genuinely want to figure out what she wants. They're still holding a cautious, arm's length from her because they know we have to do that with just about everybody, but especially if somebody we know is armed. but they genuinely want to help her. So they're just kind of making conversation with her, trying to see, what comes out of the conversation. And it's not like, they're ripping through a playbook trying to figure out what words to say next. They're just talking to her. They're just having a conversation. Then all of a sudden she just starts walking towards him and it changes the whole temperature.
Not this either. Drop the knife.
Daisy.
Don't do it.
Daisy.
Daisy, I don't want to hurt you. Drop the knife. I got her. Daisy, don't go towards him. Nope. Don't do it. Drop it. Come on, Daisy. You don't got to do that.
All right, this is very confusing to me because this is Officer 1. I believe he's holding deadly force on her. I think he's got his gun out and he's pointing it at her. She's like kind of advancing and then walking back into the plaza, kind of advancing, walking back in the plaza. But she's also taking cover behind a cement post. So the one that could end this does not have the shot, so to speak, because she's hiding herself. She's concealing herself in a sense. So it's very confusing what's going on here, to be honest.
I think it could be like dipping your toe into the pool and then finding out it's cold. And then
that's true.
She's getting ready to, if we're reading the situation right, she's getting ready to jump over a cliff, and she just looked. She just peeked over the side and looked how far down the drop is. She stepped off the curb and started walking towards the officers, and she's staring down the barrel. And now it's, the moment of peak critical tension. Will she go through with it? I think that's what's happening.
None. Maybe 277 at the most.
Daisy, how can we help you? Okay, we don't want you to get hurt. We don't want to get hurt. Let us get you some help.
Yeah. You go to call it longer.
Daisy, go ahead and put the knife down, okay? I mean, I'm good. I mean, it was purposeful. Yeah. She took, yep. Daisy, drop the knife, please. We don't want you to get hurt. We don't want to get hurt. You made a threat on us by moving towards us with the knife, so we can't leave now, okay? All right, so go ahead and drop the knife so we can get you out of here. Junior, I'm coming to your side, okay? So we're not, I'm coming to you. Just put the knife down, Daisy. We can call somebody for you. We can get you a ride somewhere. We can get you something to eat. The opportunities are endless. What's it going to be? Yep.
We'll get you whatever you need if you just drop that. We don't want to.
So what now?
I'll get the phone.
Okay.
What do you want?
If you're a cop out there and you're watching this, this is why you train at the ready or at the low ready. This is why you should be doing this at the range. I mean, he's been holding his arms out in front of him for a good minute and a half now, maybe 2 minutes. I might have that wrong. But at least, and his adrenaline is flowing, and he's still controlling his temperament by like having a calm conversation with her. So his body's got to be freaking out by now. I'm sure his hands are shaking a little bit. But there comes a point where your muscles are going to get a little bit weak too, because you've been holding that gun out for so long. And if you show any sign of like fatigue or putting that gun down and she's serious about doing what she wants to do, it's going to end badly for both of you.
You're right. I mean, we've seen her react that way already, where we were talking to her calmly and all of a sudden it's like she changed who she was as a person. I just want to commend the officers though, saying the opportunities are endless. We will get you whatever you need.
Yeah.
They mean it. They will, when they talk about getting her some food, they'll buy that out of their own pocket. These police officers who, by the way, in the media and everywhere, social media. These are state-sanctioned killers. These are police officers, are human beings with permission to murder. This is not who police officers are. What you're looking at right now is who police officers are. There's someone that would open their own wallet to diffuse a situation and say, like, let's go down to Denny's, let's go down to wherever's open right now, and let's get you some pancakes. I would rather do that than have any kind of use of force on you. Police officers are very compassionate, and they don't want to hurt anyone. And this is just proof of that because this person has a knife, she charged at him, and they're still talking. They still want to solve it with words, Drew.
Yeah. That's not the snippet you're going to see on TikTok.
No.
You're not going to see any of this on Instagram. You're not going to see this on Facebook. You're going to see, I don't know how it ends. I have my suspicions, but I think you're going to get the 6-second clip of how it ends. You're not going to get the 10 or 15 minutes that lead up.
Charlie 4, did you have this one? What's that? Copy.
What's going on? It's cold, I'm freezing. Can I get you somewhere warm? Can you just talk to me?
Tell me about them siblings. 6 siblings, you're the second oldest. How old's your oldest? Is it 26? What's his name? I tried that.
How old are you? What's your name?
Her name's Miss Daisy.
You know, John, what I'm noticing too is like nothing she says is hostile.
Yeah.
So they're being calm and nice and kind to her, and other than her movements and the fact that she has a knife, you have no indication whatsoever that she's angry, upset, obviously confused. But you have in not telling the whole story, but she's being very nice. You know what I mean?
The most difficult thing is if you're trying to build a rapport with her, is that because she's not venting those emotions, is you can't get to the root of it. He's saying, let's go back to talking about your family, talk about your siblings, because it's the only thing he has to go on. If she would say anything that was on her mind, anything that was bothering her, they could address that. They could ask more open-ended questions. They could say, how did we get here? How did this start? What's with this other person that's bothering you? Whatever it is that's going on with her. But because she's not giving them anything, they have very little to work with. So although it's disturbing to be talking with someone who's not hostile, it's also frustrating because you can't figure out what's the cause.
Right.
Put that down so I can talk to you. Drop it. I don't know how to do it. I'll come to you and put it down. It's cold in
What about me? I just got here. Do you want to talk to me?
I know he's a redhead. He's surprising. He's got a great sense of humor.
I am funny as fuck.
He's single if you're looking.
Drew's laughing. We got to address this because to the uninitiated, you're going to think like this is really not funny, or this is really disturbing or unprofessional. What this is they're trying anything to break that tension. First of all, these officers, their hairs are standing up at the back of their neck, so they're feeling tension. They want to break their own, but they want to get Daisy to laugh or to smile or anything, or to relate to them in any other fashion than what she's doing right now. So anyone might criticize the police for saying, oh, well, he used the F word, or, he's saying that he's looking for a date or whatever. When you are facing someone with a knife and you have a gun pointed at them, anything works in terms of talk to try to bring them around. And something else they did before, which was an excellent tactic, was, do you want to talk to this person instead? It's never about ego. It's never about, I'm going to be the one that gets through to her. I'm going to be the one who talks her off this ledge. Anything works. You put the goal in front of yourself when you're in a situation like this. Drew?
This is real life, and you do whatever you can to preserve that life.
I did mark on my dating app though, no knives. So I don't.
He needs a date to their Christmas party.
Hey, it's also true. So
Like, seriously, he needs a date. So if you know somebody, help him out.
Daisy, what's been going on today? I don't normally just walk out with a knife like that. What's been going on? You got enough people here because they're genuinely concerned about you. This is where you're fucking off doing nothing.
You're not in trouble. You just lay down and talk to her.
I feel this frustration, and I know you do too, John, that she's not talking, and that's their goal, just to get her talking. You,
Say
you
anything.
just, yeah, you just want her to say anything. Like, give us an indication. Like, yes, I'm, my husband left me, or no, nothing is wrong, or you know what I mean. Just give us something. But she's not saying anything, and it's very, very, very frustrating trying to get somebody who is troubled and has something buried in the bucket in their heart that you're just trying to get them to pour it out and not cut it out, or come at you with the knife so you have to shoot it out.
Negotiation is all about building patterns of cooperation. Sometimes that can be, will you let a hostage go in exchange for a pizza? Sometimes that's in a movie, what you'll see. But just in this initial contact, it's always the most difficult part. But with her not saying anything at all, you can't even build a cooperative pattern of conversation. Even if she was in full denial, saying, no, nothing's wrong, nothing's happening. At least there would be some back and forth, and they could say, are you sure? Because you seem really upset. They're being stonewalled, and they have to try to climb over that wall, Drew.
Yeah, and they're trying anything, like the sense of humor and all that. And I can't see her, but I would imagine it's probably bringing a smile, or, if there's no affect, I'm pretty sure they would say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Charlie 39, 10-9.
Daisy, what can I do for you right now? Is there anybody I can call for you? Anywhere you need to go? Are you hungry? You look cold?
Want a bottle of water?
I think I got some Taco Bell in my car that I probably shouldn't be eating. It's all yours if you want it.
We're here to help.
This is a horrible psychological conundrum for the officers, to have to try to convince somebody that we're here to help you, and you've got a gun pointed at them. And it's like, there's no other way to put it. There's no other way to convince them, but there's no other way to defend yourself. You can't just put your gun in your holster and take a chance, unless somebody else has their gun out, or one or all three of you are about to be stabbed here. That's the way you have to look at it, unfortunately. And she's not giving you any other indication. She's not saying, no, actually, I'm just looking for a pumpkin to carve, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So you have to treat it as if it's about to happen. And they're still trying to convince her, we're not here to hurt you, but we are pointing a gun at you.
In a movie, Denzel would hold up his gun by the grip and drop it, and he'd walk over to her with open arms, and he'd wrap his arms around her, and she'd drop the knife, and they'd cry.
And they'd both cry.
And for some reason, that is almost an expectation of what people want to see out of real life police officers, especially anymore. But that's how you get yourself killed as a police officer.
It's not realistic.
And these cops have siblings and families, and they have Taco Bell that they want to survive for.
Yeah.
So there's not any reason to do that. Go ahead, Drew.
Daisy, the ball's in your court, okay? You called 911 saying you needed help, and we're here to help you. If you don't tell us what you need, there's not a whole lot we can do for you.
Daisy, I think you called because you know you want to do the right thing. I think you know whatever it is that's going on right now is not how things should be. You want change in your life. You want a positive difference being made. Let us help you make that positive change. I understand reaching out for something, that's great.
Don't do it.
Let's look at a second angle on that.
What you need, there's not a whole lot we can do for you.
Daisy, I think you called because you know you want to do the right thing. I think you know whatever it is that's going on right now is not how things should be. You want change in your life. You want a positive difference being made. Let us help you make that positive change. I understand reaching out for something, that's great.
Don't do it.
It's terribly sad. They did call EMS to the scene. They performed life-saving measures on her. Unfortunately, Daisy did not survive. I feel terribly bad for these police officers who engaged with sincerity and intentionality and a strong desire to affect positive change. They were talking about it right there at the end. But there was no getting through to Daisy. There was something that was preventing her from listening to those kind words. I want to commend the Greenville County Sheriff's Office for responding with compassion, professionalism, and true community policing and attempting to intervene in this young woman's life to try to save it. Unfortunately, when he says Daisy has the ball in her court, he's exactly right. When a person has a weapon and they're refusing to comply, that person's in charge of the situation. We can't just go up and grab the knife from her or use ninjutsu or something like you would see also in a movie. We have to resort to unconventional tactics, which negotiations and in terms of the entirety of policing history is an unconventional tactic.
Watching her advance towards them gave me the indication that she just wanted to get enough run towards them to make them to affect the response. She was not advancing towards them to. I'm not saying this like that the officers did something wrong. She provoked the response that she got. She provoked the response that she wanted. But I really don't think that she had the intention to hurt those officers, just based on, when she took the first round, she stopped advancing. And she took the second round and third round and she just laid down. This is exactly what she wanted. She just wanted them to do what she didn't have the guts to do. And, just as I suspected from that other video, when the guy was, he was highly intoxicated and he was saying, just come here and take care of it for me because I can't do it myself. So now what that leaves is her problem is solved in her, departed spirit mind. And now these three officers have to live with that for the rest of their lives. And I get that society is like, well, that's what you signed up for. No, it's not. That's not what I signed up for. I signed up for the 15 minutes prior to that. And for the resolution of having her sit in my backseat and eat the Taco Bell, or getting her a moons over my hammy before we head over to the Tampa Bay Crisis Center or something. But I definitely didn't. I never lived to take my gun out of my holster, and I never lived to fire it at anybody for any reason. It was there because if I needed it, that's what I would have used it for, and that's what these guys did. They didn't do anything beyond the scope of what they were trained to do or what they should have done in that situation, but she forced that. And, like I said, social media is going to see the last 12 seconds of that clip, or last 4 seconds. And even then they're going to question why the officers shot him. So it's bad enough that they have to live with what they had to do. They have to live in the court of public opinion.
Yeah. Speaking of the court of public opinion, I guess reaction to this has been pretty strong, as you well imagine. People are gathering and demanding for justice from a violent police department. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I guess this is all old footage of the Naji Seabrooks case in Patterson, New Jersey. The reason why I throw this up and I have somewhat of a sarcastic tone is not because of Daisy Lewis or what happened to her, but if you want to look at this case and compare facts to facts, this case strongly resembles the Naji Seabrooks case. We had a young man who dialed 911, asked for police to come to his location. He was armed with a knife. A protracted standoff occurred, long negotiations. In fact, Greenville County performed their job here very courteously, very professionally, with a lot of compassion. Paterson, New Jersey was in a standoff with Naji Seabrooks for hours and hours and hours. They brought in his family members, his uncle to talk to. He talked to multiple police officers, talked to crisis negotiators. SWAT was there. They did everything they could to defuse the situation with Naji Seabrooks. Ultimately, he decided to break out of the bathroom that he was holed up in after starting fires and creating an untenable situation. They were willing to wait him out indefinitely. He charged out of that bathroom towards a police officer with a knife, just like Dazi Lewis did, and the resulting use of force was the same. So let me ask you, we're looking now, if you're just listening, you're missing it, but Black Lives Matter on the streets of Paterson, New Jersey, calling for justice. Their supposedly righteous outrage on display. You see people crying and shaking their fists and making a scene. There's no difference between Dazi Lewis and Naji Seabrooks except the year. Naji Seabrooks happened at a time where it was much more popular to hate police officers, to foment all kinds of protests and things like this in the street for political gain. And ultimately, the sad thing that I could say is, you can have your protests, and if someone wants to protest for Dazi Lewis, I guess that you can. It's going to be as intellectually non-rigorous as the protests for Naji Seabrooks were. But what happened was that the Paterson Police Department ended up being subsumed by the New Jersey Attorney General's office. What was that called? A conservatorship, Drew? What was that?
Consent decree. I think they ended up with a federal consent decree after that.
Okay. Well, the reason why I mentioned this.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. You know what they did? It may have been the New Jersey Attorney General's office that sent the state police in there to take over their police department because of that incident. And it was. And John, look, let me tell you. Let me tell everyone. You don't have to get your information from us. We did a full case breakdown on the Naji Seabrooks case, and you'll see the similarities between these two cases. It was negotiation forever and ever and ever. And this guy, Naji Seabrooks, who was a community organizer, forced their hand, just like this poor girl did. And it was John, that's a brilliant point. It's an eerily similar scenario, although Naji, questionable whether it was like a psychotic break or drug induced or whatever. But the bottom line is they're assuming there was no de-escalation. They're assuming that it was based in race. They're assuming that the police kicked in a door and started shooting at people. And it's just not the case. It was like a 2 or 2.5 hour negotiation. And we have a full breakdown on it. Like, if you don't want to watch it see it from our perspective, find it from anybody's perspective. I don't care. But John's 100% right. These cases are very, very similar.
I'm reading here that the New Jersey Attorney General's office took control of Paterson PD in 2023 after the fatal shooting of Naji Seabrooks. Attorney General Matthew Platkin criticizes the revolving door of police leadership.
Have we heard that name?
Of course, yes, there's always trouble with police leadership, but I mentioned Matthew Platkin by name because, of course, Matthew Platkin is the Attorney General in New Jersey. He's the same Attorney General who prosecuted Salvatore Oldratti. We had the Oldratti, his parents, on the show talking about, I mentioned at the top of the show, Charles Sharp, the guy that called 911 and asked police to come to him because he was under the influence of methamphetamine and other drugs and had suicidal ideation. And the police officers were forced to respond and ultimately use that terminal force. We see cases like this over and over and over again where people are summoning police to them with this nefarious intent to draw fire from officers. And so the Greenville County Sheriff's Office has allowed these deputies to return to patrol. Thank goodness, because this case is 100% justifiable. But if this case had occurred in New Jersey, or if it had occurred elsewhere, even if these officers had been cleared by the local shooting boards or by their agency or another agency investigating their shooting, would they be cleared indefinitely? Would they eventually face indictment for manslaughter charges? I think they did a great job, but they should be cautious. I don't know what politics are like in Greenville County, South Carolina, but those deputies need to be careful because it's never say never when it comes to cases like this. And this is the guillotine that always hangs over the heads of police officers, that on your worst day of your career, when you're forced to draw that weapon and pull that trigger, even if you're 100% justified, it may come back at you, and it may still threaten your pension and your freedom and your livelihood and your family. So I'm hoping that that never comes to these Greenville County Sheriff's Office deputies, but it has come to so many others before. And I think it's important to draw the comparison to Naji Seabrooks and the contrasts of how similar these things can be, how both are straightforward and justifiable, but how lives have been destroyed. Police officers' lives have been destroyed as a result, Drew.
So much more to it, and just not to mention the mental health aspect of Salvatore Oldratti that had to take the life, the Newark officer that had to take the life of Naji Seabrooks, and these officers in Greenville who ended up having to take her life. It's going to play on their minds for the rest of their lives. So what, as society, do you think that you're doing by throwing this blanket over them to say, we're not 100% satisfied that that's what you should have done, even though we don't know anything about your training. So just for the next couple of years, we need you to look over your backs while you're trying to be out there to protect us. We're seeing some conflicting information coming from the Chauvin trial now. The assistant chief is being sued for supposedly perjuring herself about the neck restraint that was taught by the Minneapolis Police Department that Derek Chauvin used, that convicted him and got him sent to eventually federal prison where he was stabbed, and we don't know for certain that he got a fair trial. I saw a very interesting case with Keith Ellison, and I'm trying to think of the other two guys, and Keith Ellison he changed my opinion on who he is, because I kind of was never a big fan, but at least I am confident that he's a very intelligent and very well thought out and well planned out prosecutor or attorney general in Minnesota. But I still think he got this case wrong in the case of Derek Chauvin. And these all interrelate, because cops across the nation are apprehensive about doing the job, because if they're not going to be killed, they're going to be indicted, and nobody wants that. And they're raising their hands to protect us, to protect everybody. And the 911 operators are right in this mix too. They're raising their hands, volunteering to hear the worst of the worst at the worst times to try to get you to safety. And what's our thanks to them? We either indict them, or they get hurt, or their mental health declines and we don't take care of them. And it's sad. And that's what we're out to change. That's the purpose behind a lot of these broadcasts that we do.
So I put it to you, if you were someone that followed the Naji Seabrooks case and you think that that was not a good comparison, or that Naji Seabrooks, the use of force used on him was not justified, go ahead and put that in the comments below. If you don't feel like the use of force used on Dazi Lewis was justified, or if you would have liked to see a different outcome, engage us in the comments below. We answer all those comments. We'll get back to you and talk to you exactly, answer your questions, anything that you have. If you want to be a part of the show, you can also call us. You can dial 848-COMM-911. That's 848-266-6911.
Nice.
That's a way that you can call us and leave us on a voicemail on the Jim from Florida voicemail hotline. I don't have a voicemail from Jim from Florida this week, but you can call and you can be on the show if you want to contribute your voice. We appreciate that. Also, just if you're watching, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. We also have memberships that if you want benefits, you want to spend even more time with the Comm Center, get access to exclusive and early content, you can do that. You can also do that on Spotify now. If you're a paying subscriber on Spotify, if you want to get, if you're listening to the show and you hear us mention details of a video and they don't make sense to you, well, if you become a member on Spotify, you can watch the video version of the Comm Center with Drew Breasy. You don't have to do it with YouTube or anything else. You can watch it right there on your phone while you're working out or whatever. And you can watch the video that we're referring to. So, and you also get access to that same bonus content if you're a member on Spotify. If you're on Apple, make sure you're leaving a 5-star rating and review. We always appreciate that. On Instagram, you can follow us at the Comm Center. That's where we do most of our social media stuff. It's a great place to reach out to us. We also respond to messages on there. You can reach out to me at I Stand Correct with appropriately spaced underscores. You can reach Drew also at What Say Drew, and also
Drew Prime Official.
I was going to say Trigger Drew 69 or something. I don't remember exactly.
Nice.
Nice. I don't remember exactly what your handle was, but You can also find us at Comm Center Pod on X if that's your thing. We broadcast over there, and sometimes we drop some tweets or whatever there is that they're called now. They're not, or are they called X's now, or what are they called?
X. Yeah, I don't know. Quotes.
I don't know what they're called. We still call them tweets, I think. We're also on Facebook if that's your jam. And just as a reminder, soon, no one will be on TikTok at all. We finally won that one. And just for the members coming up, just as a reminder, we got the after show. That's coming live next. I'll be sitting down with you and taking your calls, questions, concerns. We usually show reels or play funny things. We find some way to entertain you. Drew, you told me before we left, though, this is what I was supposed to ask you. Why not mention Hunches on the radio?
Okay, so you got the heaviness of being a 911 operator or a dispatcher, or maybe even a radio dispatcher, and you're hearing things on the phone, and it's your job to put them into a little tiny screen for an officer to read as he's driving at warp speed. And sometimes you want to relay a message like, in your heart, you're thinking, I think this guy's got a gun, man. I think this guy is armed. I think this lady's got a knife. I think that, unless you know factually, you can't really put that in there. Okay, so because if you put that in there, I think they have a knife. I think they have a gun. And the officers get there and immediately pop out of their car, just like we saw in the Tamir Rice case in Cleveland, which we've also broken down. And they act upon your hunch, and it turns out to be incorrect. Well, then you've definitely failed the society part of the job, because you're there to protect society as a 911 operator, as a 911 dispatcher. Yet at the same time, you're going through your mind like, man, I know this guy's got a gun. I know this guy's got a gun. And they get the officers get there, and God forbid the guy does have a gun, and one of those officers gets hurt. You now have to live with the guilt of never letting anybody know what you thought at the time. It's not information that you were given. It's just something that you thought. So there's a lot more that goes into this job than just being, oh, 911, what's your emergency? Let me type exactly what you say. And this is why we need to give the deference to this is exactly why they need to be considered first responders in all 50 states. And this is why we need to be providing the same mental health help, the same outlets, giving them quiet rooms, giving them dogs, give them everything they need, give them everything that they deserve. So you have a well-adjusted person answering the 911 call and a well-adjusted person on the radio that can be sharp and clear enough to be able to handle situations like this and be able to give the hunch when it's time in an appropriate manner and make sure that the public is safe and make sure that the officers are safe.
We're here to take care of you. It would stand to some reason that you might take care of us. I'll take a dog, Yeah, that would be nice. All right, guys, you can catch us back here next week. Also, make sure you check out our podcast. If you have never caught the Death by Suitcase Comm Center series podcast, check that out as well. It's got all of our cases, everything from the Sarah Boone stuff. And of course, Sarah Boone just will never probably leave this podcast channel, because I read recently that she had made a demand that she wanted to be paid $15,000 for representing herself, as though she somehow deserves a lawyer's favor for representing herself in the situation that she caused. So there's always more to talk about with her. So look forward to that in the future.
Actually sue herself for a bad representation.
She should sue herself for defamation of character.
Perhaps we're going to break down those letters very soon, and you'll find them on that podcast.
Your Honor, I soft-spokenly tell you that I have a brilliant case against myself.
I object, Your Honor. Overruled. Okay, what's your? You know what I mean? Like all three things she would have to say. Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. It's not hearsay. Well, I'm the only one saying it, so it must be hearsay.